This is Spare Time Repair, and this is a Denon DCD-1800R from 1985. This is another unit that was sent to me by a viewer who wondered if I'd be able to repair it for him. The 1800R was one of Denon's premium units, and if the weight is any indication of quality, this player is going to be a real treat. It's significantly heavier than the Revox B225 I looked at recently, and that's saying something. The wooden side panels are further evidence that Denon aimed this one squarely at audiophiles. It has a rear projecting power supply, all metal encased, and gold-plated RCA jacks as you'd expect from a high-end machine. The owner told me that the tray was unreliable, and it was also hit and miss reading discs. I couldn't get the tray to open at all, but from the front it looks like it's misaligned, so that could be a result of a bumpy journey in the FedEx truck. I'm sure you're as keen as I am to take a look inside, so let's get on with it. These wooden side panels are optional, but I asked the owner to include them just to complete the look of it. It's hard to exaggerate how heavy this is. Just moving it around on the mat is a little bit tricky. And these are just laminated chipboard, it's not solid wood or anything. Right, no further screws, so let's take a look. Well, the case is painted on the inside. I've never seen that before. This is a bit like one of the early Sony players with this upside down board on the right. And we've seen the Philips swing arm pickup, but this one pivots from here. Very solid looking side clamp. And these are the tray limit switches on top, operated by this metal post here. So when the tray's fully out, it's going to activate this one. And on the other side, there's another metal L bracket with this foam pad on it, presumably to dampen the tray when it opens fully. And this is obviously the tray motor. Again, that's a very unusual design. So let's turn it on and see what it's doing. Well, something was definitely jammed. Clearly it's free now. There's two micro switches here as well, so I wonder what role they play. Yeah, it's a two-stage tray, so when it closes, that's stage one, and then this rack here extends and drops the disc down. Well, now that the tray's working, let's see if it'll actually read a disc. And I've only got a handful of 1985 albums, so I'm going to give Phil Collins another spin. Well, it appears to have read the disc. There's no table of contents. Well, let's see if it plays. Well, it jumped in there at about the 5-second mark. Now it's skipping. So we have operation, but it just needs a bit of a service. Normally if a player was skipping, I'd clean the sled rails of the pickup, but this doesn't have any. So maybe the grease on that pivot point has just got a bit gloopy. I think we need to remove the tray and have a look. Well, I've just noticed that there's a belt down here being driven by this little motor, and that's what's moving the pickup. So that could well be the source of the problem. It's actually a Canon motor. I didn't even know Canon made motors. And there's another belt down here for the tray. That's a flat belt. So I'm going to take a look at that as well. And I haven't turned this upside down yet, but I'm guessing the bottom panel is easily removable. So servicing this belt should be simple. And to do this one, I think the front panel is going to have to come off. So let's power it off. Incidentally, the power switch is horrible. It's sort of spongy and not very engaging. I think that's probably the weak point of this machine. Probably goes without saying that this front panel is all aluminium. Yep, 3 screws in the bottom for the front panel, and this bottom plate looks like it comes off as well. These are pretty robust shock mounts for the transport. There are a number of connectors down here under this top board, and I think they're tethering this front panel. I think I've just about got room to disconnect these. We pry them off with this plastic pry bar. Oh, there's another one at the bottom. Well, I don't think I can get these mixed up, but I'm going to label them anyway. I'll call this one B for bottom. And just this front panel probably weighs half as much as the average player. I mentioned that this feels spongy. It's also not the smoothest. We can unhook that and probably service it a bit. Yeah, there's a bit of dust in there that might have been hampering it. And the owner didn't ask me to clean this up, but that's all part of the service. Well, a lot of that weight is coming from this enormous VFD. The only other Denon player I've looked at had a very busy display. This one's not quite so bad. More screws holding in the buttons. And these are all aluminium caps on these buttons. That's quite heavy in itself. Very nicely made. That display lens is very clean. I don't think that needs a wash. And again, aluminium caps on all of these too. Just going to check the continuity of the buttons. Those all seem fine. I'm not going to mess with those. And I'm going to give all these parts a clean so that I can let them dry while I move on to those belts. Let's remove this bottom panel. Let's see what we've got under here. Well, that's not as easy as I thought. Perhaps I can release it by squeezing in these tabs. Might not be so easy to get them back in again, but that does indeed release the bottom plate. And yes, this belt for the pickup does look pretty slack, so I'm not surprised that was problematic. And according to this sticker, this is the transport lock. Just prevents it moving. Can I get that belt off? I'm going to check the service manual for this one because I don't want to remove these 4 screws because they clearly go through this PCB. Well, apparently you do just remove these screws. Well, that's not helping, is it? Because the pulley's coming up with it. I don't really need to disturb this plate if I could just slip this belt over the pulley. Well, it's off. Not sure about my chances of getting a new one on there though. Going to try this one. It's thinner, but it doesn't need a lot of force. Just going to clean up the pulley first and the motor spindle. It's over the wheel. Okay, I think I've got it. It's actually the metal spindle of this wheel that's moving the pickup via this rubber piece here. It's almost acting like a capstan on a tape recorder. Hopefully you can see in there that shaft pressed up against that rubber edge, working just like a capstan. So if I wind it all the way to the end, just clean this piece up. And I finally got myself some rubber renew, so I'm going to rub that into this piece here. I was actually quite nervous about getting this because everyone told me it absolutely stinks and you need to use it outside. Gotta be honest, I really like the smell. It smells like root beer, or Germaline if you're in the UK. That feels good, so I'm going to put these screws back in. And since that's all I need to worry about on the bottom here, I might as well put this panel back and just hope that these clips on the PCB locate okay. Well, to get those plastic clips back into the bottom panel, I'm going to need to remove this PCB at the top so that I can press down on the other PCB from above. A couple of clips here to release. Well, okay, that's not too bad. I could release it all together by undoing these connectors. I don't think I need to. If I tip this forward and just make sure those clips are located. That one's in. I think this one's about to come through. This one at the back looks like it's located. Right, I'm going to refasten that board. Well, so far I'd say this thing is well built, but not very serviceable. Okay, now I want to remove the tray. First I need to remove the clamp, and for that there's a hole in the end here which gives access to a screw. This screw is so tight. Spring for the clamp is built into the bracket, so you don't have to remove that separately. Then there's this metal pin here which is fixed but does have a spring, so it's adjustable from the top, and that rides up and down on this ramp here. And the arc that the pickup makes as it moves across the disc is quite interesting. It's sort of a very shallow curve. It certainly doesn't curve as much as the Phillips swing arm. I was going to say I'd plug it in to eject the tray, but I can't do that with the front panel removed. And I don't think I can pull the tray out without the help of the motors. Well, I guess I could inject some voltage. Now it comes out. It's very smooth. I think it's on ball bearings. But to remove it fully, I'll need to remove these 2 L-shaped brackets. In fact, they're not ball bearings, they're little nylon rollers. They're sort of embedded into these thin plastic strips. And there's a number of those that just help it slide. Anyway, we've now got access to the belt, which is what we wanted. And yeah, that one's gone very crusty. fact, without the belt it feels a lot smoother. I'll see if I've got a decent replacement. If not, I might have to clean this one up. This one looks like a good option, but I'm going to clean this one up first because I don't think it's slackened off. I think it's just a bit slippy. Well, after cleaning and some rubber renew, this feels like a brand new belt. It's a bit misshapen, but I think it's going to be okay. We'll clean the pulley though. I also just noticed that the disc spindle motor has this metal flywheel at the bottom. You can just see that turning as well. Well, that flywheel actually is the motor. There's a magnet underneath that's driven by coils attached to the PCB. We'll see those in more detail later. Well, I do want to remove the tray completely to give it a good clean. So I think to do that I need to remove these two catches on the side. One of these on each side, just retaining it. And here are the runners with the nylon wheels. Some of the wheels are at different angles, so I'm not sure they're meant to be like that. Very solid tray construction, but no screws in the bottom. I wonder if those have been removed at some point. And we have an optical sensor down here acting as a limit switch for the pickup. So when it's back in its home position, that beam is broken. Well, this movement isn't entirely smooth, and it's because there's a little indentation on this rubber piece here. Where it rests here in the home position against that spindle, it's like a little detent, and it just provides a little judder at the start of its movement. I wonder if that is the issue. It's going to check these two limit switches. Yeah, that one's not good. That one's fine. Just using a bit of cardboard this time to do it. And the bottom one, much better. I don't think you can make out that little detent in the rubber piece here, but when I push it gently you'll probably be able to see it just, do you see that? Just jumped into place. But when I turn the pulley, I can't feel it. So hopefully it won't be an issue. Well, now the tray's out, I'm going to give that a good clean, and then I'm going to look at those little nylon rollers. Actually, before I forget, I should clean the lens. Not sure if this is a Toshiba pickup. Now these little nylon runners, all the runners are facing in different directions. I'm guessing they're meant to be centralized. Not sure that's even obvious on the camera. I can't zoom in any further. I'll try and do it with my phone. You can see the wheels are all going in different directions, except for this one in the middle of the frame. And I think that's how they're all meant to be. So I'm going to put them all central and see if that works. In fact, I've just popped all those runners out of here because I want to give these a good clean. Looks like they used to have grease on them. So I'll get rid of all the old residue and then we'll start again. We're looking at this now, because this sits in the channel of the side of the tray, I think maybe these are meant to be angled, because you've got like a V groove in here. And when the rollers are sitting flat like I've done in these first two, they don't really spin. But this third one that I've angled, it does spin. It sort of meets with this top channel. In the service manual, these are described as crossed rollers. That also suggests that they should go in opposite directions. Well, I seem to have two missing rollers, so I've missed out the middle one on each side to give plenty of support at the ends. Before I refit them, I'm just going to clean these channels. I'm wondering whether they need greasing or not. I can't see any evidence of grease being used originally, so I'll try it without. Just a little metal piece at the end here to retain it. So I'm going to put it on the tray, slide it in. Ooh, that does feel smooth. Now I can refit this little retaining clip on the side. And there's one on the other side as well. And then these two L brackets on the tray. And you can see it activating these two limit switches. Now I can refit the disc clamp. That's the main unit back together. So now I just need to reassemble the front panel. I wonder if I should put a bit of grease on this power button. Don't think it's going to hurt. Going to clean the glass before I put it back in. Hopefully I've got enough slack to refit these connectors. I think this green one's going to be a problem. I think I'm going to take this top PCB off again. Yeah, it's this cable tie that's holding it back. Well, that's not gone on properly, and it's because I need to ensure the power linkage arm fits inside the power switch. Okay, that's on there properly now. Alright, I think we're ready to retest. Well, despite my cleaning, that tray belt is not working. It's not engaging the extra disc clamp part. Okay, I've replaced that belt with the new one that I was going to fit originally, and I'm surprised this doesn't work actually. Maybe it's the shape of it more than anything else. But anyway, tray is now opening. But have we resolved that skipping issue? It's disappointing that there's no table of contents at all. I mean, we don't even have a track count. Oh, well look at that. If we press call, we get a very brief table of contents. Anyway. Better turn this down. Yeah, looks like that's done the trick. No more skipping. Interesting that it's got the intro function, playing the first 10 seconds of every track. I don't think I've seen that before on a player this old, but a 3-colour VFD is pretty unusual, and you can't say it's not comprehensive. So functionally, I think we can call that one done. Well, I spoke too soon. It's going crazy again. It's like it's stuck on fast forward. It's so strange. Well, now it's not even reading a disc, and if you look down here, when I load it, it's just moving around erratically. That sound you can hear is coming from that flywheel, but I'm now wondering whether that's the issue, whether it's not spinning the disc at a consistent speed and therefore it's struggling to read the data. I've had a few days away from this while I finished off another project, but I've given it some thought, and I think the only way forward is to properly remove the transport, even though that's really difficult, and the service manual is not any help at all really. I think it may need recapping, but yeah, removing that transport is what I'm going to try next. Okay, I've got the transport flipped over, and I had to snip a few cable ties to do that, and I think I can say with confidence this is the most difficult player I've ever had to work on. I had to detach this subframe for the front panel in order to flip this over, and all the connections for this are going into here and you can't get to them because the other PCB is in the way and you have to keep flipping it over. Anyway, I don't want to do this more than once, so I'm going to check all these components, replace any capacitors that seem bad, and just really hope for the best. I've removed the disc motor assembly, and the coils for it are under here. You can't see them. But yeah, you've just got this big magnet on the bottom, and it feels really smooth. So I don't know why it was making that wailing noise. I put new grease on the bearing points, but otherwise I can't see any issues with that. In fact, I was just cleaning this bearing point, and yeah, I don't know why that's so dark. I mean, it almost looks like rust. And I'm just disassembling this completely so that I can give it a thorough clean and lubrication. And before I reassemble, I'm just going to apply a little bit of oil, top and bottom. A few people have asked what oil I use, and it's just 3-in-1 oil. Very common, lightweight oil. But sewing machine oil would also be a good option. This part connects to the shaft with this grub screw, so I don't need to lubricate that. And there's just a split ring washer on the end. And I did note the turntable height was exactly the width of this cable tie. So I'm going to use that as my guide and just tighten up this screw. So here's the underside of the transport PCB. You can see those 4 coils for the motor, but there's not much else going on down here. I'm just going to check them for continuity. 22 ohms. 23. 23, 22. Those all look good. These 2 little black components here are Hall effect sensors, and they monitor and regulate the motor speed. And those poke through these 2 cutout holes on the other side of the board so that they're close to the magnet as it spins. There's the DAC, Burr Brown PCM 53JP-V, and that's just here on the underside of this top board. There were 4 capacitors on the board here that I've just removed, and they're all testing fine, but I want to remove this glue that was used to stick them down because over time it becomes conductive. You can see it's run under those 2 jumper wires there. And if I put the meter in resistance mode and put the probes in the glue, you can see we do get a reading. And yes, it's in the megohms, but really a T-sieve should be open circuit. Shouldn't be any resistance at all. So I'm going to scrape it all away, and it's going to take a little while, but I think it's worth it. Okay, that's all cleaned up as best I can, and the capacitor's back in place. And at this point, I think I'm ready to test it again and see if things are working any better. Well, so far so good. But then it did this last time. The only way to know for sure is to let it play over an extended period of time. So I think I'm going to start editing this video while listening to it and seeing how it goes. I'm just hooking it up to the scope, and the eye pattern looks pretty good. Stable and clear, pretty happy with that. I'd like to say that this machine performed flawlessly during my testing, but that's not quite the case. I've listened to 7 or 8 albums on it now, and although most of them loaded and played fine, this Sneaker Pimp CD doesn't work at all. It just won't read it. I spent quite a lot of time tweaking and tuning, including checking all the capacitors, but this CD just still won't work. And if this one doesn't load, how many more won't? I thought that was a good question, so I tried loading no fewer than 50 different discs, and it read and played 49 of them. The one it failed on I've had problems with before, so I suspect it's just a bad pressing. One other disc took 2 attempts to read, but then worked fine. During my research, I found to my surprise that the signal levels on pressed CDs can vary quite a lot, with the worst ones almost behaving like CDRs, which the Denon doesn't like much either, although it will play some. It's also worth noting that it can struggle to locate the final tracks on longer discs. It took a full minute to locate track 27 on this Beatles compilation, but since it was made at a time when the maximum disc length was 74 minutes, it's no surprise that it gets confused by those that exceed that duration. When it is working though, this player sounds beautifully rich and detailed, and you realise that all those densely packed components are really doing a job. I'm confident that this unit is at least in better shape than when it arrived, so hopefully its owner won't be too disappointed. Speaking of the owner, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Skip for trusting me with his player, a huge thanks to you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.